Basic two-wheeler technology, lubrication. Lubrication system play an important role in the functioning of a motorcycle. Let's study the construction and function of lubrication system. Lubrication system. The shaft and bearing shown here are very well finished and appear very shiny. No matter how smooth they may look, there are many imperfections on their surfaces, as this microscopic view shows. If the shaft moves or slides in a bearing and the surface are in direct contact, considerable friction occurs. This friction generates heat and eventually material wear or seizure will occur. What happens if oil is introduced between the friction surfaces? The shaft rotates longer, meaning there is less friction. But it was the oil between the two surfaces that prevents direct metal-to-metal contact. The effect is termed lubrication, and the oil here is called the oil film. Motor oil commonly used in motorcycle ends as the lube. Reconsidering, the lubricant can differ from motorcycle to motorcycle. In four-stroke engines, oil is generally stored inside the crankcase for circulation throughout the engine. This lubrication system is called the wet sump type. Engine oil and gearbox oil are usually common in this system. And the gears, the transmission are splash lubricated. Lubrication for four-stroke engine. This is the basic construction of the wet sump lubrication system. In this example, the oil pump is driven by mechanic chain. The pump draws oil from the oil sump created at the bottom of the crankcase. A mesh filter is provided to trap residue. The oil then travels through the centrifugal oil filter and oil passages built in the crankshaft to lubricate big end bearing. The oil comes out of the hole and connecting rod and lubricates the crankshaft bearing, piston, cylinder, and so on. Oil is also supplied to the cylinder head and it comes out from the rocker shaft and camshaft to lubricate the cam lobes, rocker and cam chain. The oil is then returned to crankcase oil sump for recirculation. In this way, oil is circulated inside the engine to lubricate the various parts. In trochoid, type oil pump is generally used in four-stroke engine. The trochoid pump consists of inner and outer rotors and a casing. The inner rotor is driven by the engine and the outer rotor by the inner rotor. The inner and outer rotors are eccentrically positioned and the outer rotor turns more slowly than the inner rotor. The volume of the space surrounded by these rotors changes as they rotate. Oil is drawn through the opening provided at the position where the volume increases and is forced out through the opening provided where the volume decreases. Mesh filter. This is a mesh filter which traps residue. A centrifugal type oil filter is provided on the crankshaft. As you see in this experiment, heavy particles are flung outward by centrifugal force when the crankshaft rotates fast. Using this principle, the centrifugal oil filter removes particles from the oil. On some models, paper filters are used instead of the centrifugal filter. Engine oil. Next, let's study a little about engine oil. One of the most important functions of engine oil is the reduction of friction. Sealing effect. The sealing effect is also important. This effect prevents high-pressure gases from passing from the combustion chamber than around the piston to the crankcase. Cooling effect. Cooling is another important role of oil. Circulating inside the engine, oil removes a considerable amount of heat. Oil keeps the engine clean by washing off contaminants inside. Rust prevention effect. Last but not the least is rust prevention. To maintain performance for a long time period, various specification characteristics are required for the engine oil. First of all, oil must have the necessary viscosity over all engine operating ranges. As you see in this experiment, oil naturally becomes less sticky when temperature rises. In other words, viscosity is reduced when oil is hot. If a low viscosity oil is used, oil film would be lost when engine temperature becomes high, causing material wear, engine overheating and the likes. If a high viscosity of oil is used instead, there will be no lubrication problem when the engine becomes hot. When cooled, however, highly viscous oil has large frictional distance and this will cause difficulty in starting the engine. The temperature characteristics of the oil viscosity are conventionally indicated by the viscosity index. For engine oils, the viscosity should be low and cold for easy starting, and should not be reduced much when hot in order to assure a good oil film and proper lubrication. Viscosity Index. As shown in this graph, oil whose viscosity is little influenced by temperature is considered to have a high viscosity index. Engine oil contains various additives. These additives, detergents and dispersants is all slugged in the oil to keep oil passages from clogging. Engine oil contains many other additives. They help improve the natural characteristics of the oil in assuring best engine performance. Let's next look at the classification of the engine oil. Viscosity indication. American SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers standards are used. Oil viscosity is indicated by numbers. The larger the number, the higher the viscosity. The indication 20W50, for instance, means that the oil has a high viscosity index and is suitable for a broad temperature range. This type of oil is therefore called a multi-grade oil. For quality classification, API, American Petroleum Institute service standards are commonly used. Currently, there are a number of classes from the lowest SA to the highest SL. In four-stroke engines, oils circulates inside the engine. As you know, oil tends to become contaminated, deteriorate, and be consumed. Regular oil level checks, periodical oil changes are very important. This system is designed to meet the demands of the engines and assure the best performance of the motorcycle.